Well, welcome everyone. And welcome back from lunch for those of you who are on the Pacific Coast time. This is track 3, and this is the panel or talk on the commodification of ayahuasca, the case of Santo Daime. And this following presentation is based on research conducted by Glauber Loures de Assis and Labate, and will explore issues surrounding the commodification of Santo Daime. So in this talk, we will hear about the history and global expansion of the Santo Daime, as well as current controversies surrounding the contrast between commodified and sacramental approaches to Daime. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Glauber Loures de Assis, who will be speaking on this topic today. He is the Associate Director of Chacruna, Latinoamérica in Brazil. He received his Ph.D. in Sociology from the Federal University of Minas Gerais in Brazil, and is currently the coordinator of the scientific department of the Church of the Eclectic Cult of Fluent Universal Light, which is the largest institution of the Santo Daime religion in the world. So I am going to hand this over to Glauber. We will have around 20 minutes for questions and answers at the end. And if you will see, if this is your first presentation today, you will see to the right that there is a Q&A chat box. So if you have questions as the talk is going on, please go ahead and type those in as they come up. I'll be keeping track, and we'll be picking from those towards the end of the lecture. Okay, so without further ado, Glauber, go ahead.
Thank you, Kevin. It's a great pleasure, a great honor to be here, to be part of this incredible event with these incredible people. So I'm going to share my screen. Just 1 second. Yeah, can you see it? Are you seeing my screen? Yes? Okay. I think Kevin is not here, but yes, thank you, Luisa, Sara, Iago. I'm trying to do this again. Okay, and can you hear me? Can you please let me know? Okay, thank you very, very much for your kindness. Yeah, so I'm going to present this new article I've been writing for a couple of months with Bia Labate. Bia is the executive director of Chacruna, so she has a lot to do. That's why she cannot join us here right now, but I want to thank you, Bia, very, very much for your incredible work. So this is a very, very simple presentation to think about some questions related to a broader commodification movement of ayahuasca, based on one of the most emblematic cases of globalization of this beverage of Amazonian origin, the Santo Daime religion. So before I begin, I would like to underline the complexity of the issue, which relates to global social and economic flows. We are experiencing a kind of decentralization of religious and mystical symbols on a global scale. And in this context, Latin America and other peripheral regions have a leading role, at least a symbolic leading role. And this, together with the crisis of modernity and the model of medicalization and Western science, favor the appeal that the spiritualist and shamanic traditions of the non-Western world and sacred plants acquired in the 21st century. So I think we live in a process of a re-enchantment of the world, where the power plants are a gateway to narratives of decolonization, spiritual revolution, health revolution, contact with the Amazon rainforest, resistance to industrialist society, the encounter with lost knowledge and ancestry, and so on and so on. But at the same time, that access to sacred plants and ayahuasca enchants the world for many Westerns, it also promotes disenchantment of the world. I mean, these practices and knowledge are disenchanted as a true global market is created in a race for discoveries, news, protagonism, patents, and the market reserve of people interested in these themes. So between these two poles, there is one thing that is always present: money. So economic issues are very, very important. Money can be used both to give back to indigenous communities and to transform the sacred and the ancestry into a mere commodity, which some people call commodification. So there is no easy way to solve these dilemmas, which are quite ambiguous, but we can and we must reflect on them. Here, then, I propose humbly a reflection based on the Santo Daime religion. So Santo Daime was founded in 1930s by Raimundo Irineu Serra. He was born in 1890 in Maranhão, Brazil's poorest state, just 2 years after the country abolished slavery. Santo Daime is the oldest Brazilian ayahuasca religion, and ayahuasca in Santo Daime is consumed as a sacrament. Santo Daime is also characterized by an intense hybridism, a mixture of a syncretism that links popular Brazilian Catholicism with spiritualism, Amazonian shamanism, Afro-Brazilian spirituality, and European esotericism. And according to the Santo Daime mythology, on a clear and beautiful night, Irineu took ayahuasca, and as he looked up at the moon, he saw a beautiful lady. She asked him, "Who do you think I am?" And amazed, Irineu looked at her and replied, "My lady, you must be a universal goddess." This female entity was later identified as the queen of the forest. She then directed her disciple to go through a series of fasts and trials, after which she granted him the right to make a wish. Raimundo asked to become a great healer, to help people, and requested that she put all her healing powers into that brew. The queen of the forest granted him this request, stressing that, that's very important, he should never make money from his services with the daime, ayahuasca. All right, from this narrative, we can already see the tension in the relationship between daime and money, which will also be present in other ayahuasca traditions. And after Irineu Serra passed away, his group split, and the greatest leadership of Santo Daime became Padrinho Sebastião, one of his followers. Padrinho Sebastião, Godfather Sebastião. So Padrinho Sebastião lived in extreme poverty, working as a rubber tapper in a situation similar to slave labor, and he always viewed money with great suspicion. So, also according to the mythology of Santo Daime, Godfather Sebastião received the prophecy of building a new Jerusalem in the heart of the Amazon rainforest. So he dreamed with a community life without buses. I've already said money was viewed as with suspicion. There was an attempt to overcome this terrible rubber tapping economic system in this new community. And this movement had prophetic, and messianic tones. Padrinho Sebastião used it to say that he wanted a new world with new people and a new system. So I made this introduction, and now I want to say that Santo Daime was restricted to the Amazon rainforest until the late 1970s. So drinking ayahuasca was a great adventure for foreigners and residents of urban centers until the early 1980s. So this diaspora of Santo Daime is a very recent movement, and this expansion process from the forest to big cities is very recent and very, very fast. And now Santo Daime is going through many transformation in this diaspora process, and less than 40 years after the beginning of this expansion, there is a completely different scenario. Santo Daime crossed not only the frontiers of the Amazon rainforest, but the oceans. And today, it is one of the Brazilian religions with the greatest global reach. This is a very diverse network, which includes structured churches, communities in the forests, clandestine groups, hybrid groups, and several individual entrepreneurs who present themselves as shamans or godfathers, padrinhos. And in the middle of these many transformations, one of the most important ones that I want to draw attention to is the production and the distribution of the ayahuasca itself within the religion. So there are new varieties of Santo Daime, new ways of preserve the beverage. For example, people put ayahuasca in refrigerators, so ayahuasca can stay fresh for a longer time. There are also many challenges in the international distribution of ayahuasca, since there are many churches outside Brazil, but the ayahuasca vines and leaves have many difficulties to grow outside. And there are also trades involving ayahuasca. This is an important movement. And one of these important transformations is are the new kinds of ayahuasca. Now I stress here the Daime Mel ayahuasca honey, because it's very sweet, and ayahuasca gel, which is a very concentrated form of ayahuasca, which also facilitates its transport at airports and customs. So I'm going to show you a very short video. Yeah, so this is the preparation of Santo Daime gel, very concentrated in one of the most important centers of production and distribution of Santo Daime in the whole country. There is an international demand for Santo Daime production, and the largest institution in Santo Daime, called ICEFLU, the Church of the Eclectic Cult of Fluent Universal Light, has been restructured to deal with the globalization process. But Santo Daime is quite fragmented. There are dozens of independent daime producers who often sell the drink at very high prices, using the name of the religion as a kind of a brand, you know? So this is a very difficult process to regulate and to control. And it is also difficult because, again, we are living a process of an international context of commodification of ayahuasca, shamanic tourism, corporate and business interests in the sacred plants of the Americas, a media hype around sacred plants, Western demand for the traditional and the ancestral, and ancestry, a new age market for healing practices, the psychedelic renaissance, psychedelic science, and with this growing demand and supply, there is a process of people offering ayahuasca as a promise of healing and health, using a narrative with indigenous symbols, indigenous stories, and there is a fetishization of ayahuasca and a vulgarization of its cultures. So here we have two advertising people who are selling ayahuasca, promising spiritual cure, spiritual healings, and each of them claims that their ayahuasca are better than others. So ayahuasca, uh, you know, we have ayahuasca advertised on the walls of the city, which is not allowed in Brazil. Ayahuasca sold in the form of cream, and in the urban ayahuasca circuit, offering only ayahuasca is no longer enough. So there is an increasing number of medicines from the forest being offered together with ayahuasca, such as kambo, the frog vaccine, sananga, the eye drop from the forest, tobacco snuff, rapé. The more medicines, the more possibilities for financial exchange. So there is competition between suppliers and religious entrepreneurs. But I also want to to stress some questions about this Santo Daime commodification. It's an interesting question to think about how this process affects each of the ayahuasca traditions. In the case of Santo Daime, there is also an important moral issue. And are there particular characteristics of Santo Daime commodification in relation to the larger movement of ayahuasca? So we have many things to think about. Difficulty in controlling the production and distribution of ayahuasca, numerous legal problems around the world, difficulties of this movement affecting the well-being of the Santo Daime communities in the Amazon rainforest. So we also lives, and there are also backlashes in the Amazon rainforest communities. Diaspora affects the traditional communities of Santo Daime. So there are people from the forest that now are living abroad. There is an emergence of new religious experts, so the person who who can make ayahuasca become an expert, a person who is really an expert. It's not something, natural as it could be before. There are many new discussions and important discussions about gender roles, deep change in Santo Daime communities, use of social networks, Facebook, YouTube, the consumption of many, many other plant medicines, the detraditionalization of the doctrine, and also the deterritorialization of the doctrine. Doctrine is another way to say Santo Daime. The native people call Santo Daime a doctrine. And there are many internal conflicts over authenticity and the sacred inside the religion. And now that we are living in this pandemic world, there are many other issues that should be stressed as well. So, but I think we do not have time to go to the pandemics discussion. Maybe later. And yeah, this is important because we are living a terrible moment at the Brazilian history. So in the Bolsonaro government, I think you know that, but Brazil broke the record for deforestation, and the policy of the environment minister, Ricardo Salles, is destroying the Amazon and its tradition. So this is important because if there is an element of local cultures like ayahuasca that is valued by the West and that can result in economic benefits for the people of the forest, is there not a good side to this process of commodification, it should be stressed that people from the forest are not mythology. They are here, and they also know how to play by Western rules. This is important because we are always criticizing the commodification and the exchange between the sacred and the market and everything, but we need to think about it. And the peripheral territories of the state of Acre are very poor, and this is the birthplace of Santo Daime. Some municipalities in Acre state are among the most difficult places to live in the whole Latin America. Santo Daime has always been a way of recovering the self-esteem of these people. So here we have a picture of Ipixuna, one of the most important historical cities for Santo Daime religion, and this is a Santo Daime ritual in the headquarters of Santo Daime in Céu do Mapiá, which was built by this whole process of exchange. So yeah, I don't want to talk too much, but I have some questions. Santo Daime commodification, that's what I want to say, is very complex and ambiguous and needs to be looked at in depth. The Santo Daime case, I think, can help us think about the global case of ayahuasca. A commodity is a ticket to nowhere, but economic exchange are important. So I want to say that, of course, I love Terence McKenna's work, but perhaps we should and we could take it a step further. You know, Terence McKenna said, avoid gurus, follow plants. But sacred plants are linked and strongly connected to their cultures and their traditions. So I think a very good way of resisting the ayahuasca commodification process is to try to think of ayahuasca from the particular cases, not from its generic forms. So if you talk to Ninawa Huniquin, who just made a very beautiful talk in this event, he doesn't say he drinks ayahuasca. He drinks Nishipan. A person who believes in Santo Daime religion does not drink ayahuasca. He or she drinks Santo Daime. A person from UDV is going to call ayahuasca vegetal. For them, Santo Daime, Nishipan, Kamalampi, Uni, vegetal, Yahé, of course, is ayahuasca. And at the same time, something different from ayahuasca. So I should stress, I want to stress, I want to call attention to this. If we want to have a healthy relationship with ayahuasca, because we all, I want to be in a free world where everyone can have access to the sacred medicines. But if we want to respect the traditions and to make a resistance against this commodification process, we need, I think, to understand local cultures. We need to be interested in their knowledge. We need to be interested in the forms of social organization, understanding that the result of the ayahuasca experience does not come only from the beverage itself, but from a whole system of knowledge, a whole science, a whole technology of ancient knowledge and wisdom. This is an important step if we want to avoid gurus, follow plants, and also follow the cultural, ritual, and shamanic systems ancestrally connected to these plants. So I think we do not have much time, but I want to finish and then we can talk a little more. It's going to be a pleasure to hear from you. You can ask questions. Please ask questions. I want to talk to you. I really want to learn from you too. But I want to quote here the great Brazilian indigenous leader, Ailton Krenak, who is probably the most important thinker in Brazil right now. So Ailton Krenak said, they can sell a soda called ayahuasca. They can sell an hallucinogenic with the name ayahuasca. What they will never know is what a shaman talks to the plant medicine. And without knowing it, the only thing they will sell is a ticket to nowhere. I think that's it. And we can talk a little if you.
Okay, thank you so much, Glauber. We now have an opportunity. We've got about 20 minutes for some questions and some discussion. So for those of you that have questions, please use the Q&A column to the right of your screen, and you can put questions there, and I will be drawing from these to further our discussion. Okay, so we've got a couple good questions to get us started. The first is it possible for white people or for non-Indigenous people to consume ayahuasca in a respectful way?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. And yeah, this is very interesting too, because here in Brazil, I am a white man. So I have this identity that I should talk about it because, yeah, I'm still learning it. That's the point, and that's important because that's the thing. When we are talking about indigenous medicines, many times we are talking about how can we use them. And when we are talking about indigenous people, we are also talking about how can we use them. So we invite them to participate in our ceremonies, in our church. We invite them to take a trip to California or to Europe or to Japan. And we are always think with this mindset. And the thing is, I think we should be interested in be a learner, student, and learn from them, really learn from them. And to do that, the first thing I think we should do is to talk to them. Because the indigenous leader I know, like Biraci Brasil, Putani Yawanawa, Ninawa Yawanawa, they are very open to share their knowledge. They're very open to be our friends. They're really interested, in do some exchange to us. So I think this is the first step. Before we can read about ayahuasca and think we know everything about it and we are prepared to carry on our own traditional and ancient ceremonies, we can talk to these people. We can travel to visit their sacred territories. So I think that's the biggest thing we can do. We can the most important exchange we can do is to talk to them, to hear from them, to learn from them. There's no a wall that separe us from the whole world, from the forest. We can go to the forest. Indigenous people, they are not folklore, they are not mythology. They are here. They can talk to us. So if I want to say what Kevin wants to tell me about ayahuasca, I'm going to call Kevin. So if I want to say how I can be respectful towards indigenous people and traditions, I can talk to them, I can call them. I think that's a way to provoke a reflection.
Okay. Okay, so here's a good question. Does the tradition of Santo Daime require sex roles and biblical morality due to its origins, or can it exist separately from colonialist and Christian customs?
This is very important. Hi, Clancy. It's really, really good to see you here. Yeah, I think it exists separately from colonialist Christian customs. I think so. But at the same time, I think that there is a patriarchy that should be criticized and must be criticized too, of course. But there is tradition communities of Santo Daime also suffered from colonialism. So Madrinha Rita of Santo Daime, the most important person in the whole world in Santo Daime tradition, who is still alive, her whole family was evangelical people. They were taught how to behave. They were taught which was sacred, which was not sacred. They were taught how to be a respectful person. So I think many, the whole history of Santo Daime until very recent years was a history of public legitimacy. So Santo Daime was persecuted, Santo Daime was socially stigmatized. So I think they fought a lot because they wanted to show that they were good people. They were not evil. They were not trying to give hallucinogenic beverage to the children, to pregnant women. So I think this must be addressed because I have the sensation that many of these things that are dated, that are outdated, and that should be no more part of Santo Daime religion, was also a historical process with a lot of suffering, and I think we can go ahead. I think we can do better, and I think that in this exchange with the forest, people from the forest are already learning how to free themselves from these colonialist and Christians patterns that are not health at all. I don't think I have a good answer for that in a very short time, but yeah, thank you for your questions. Very deep, very important.
Okay, I'm not sure if everyone can see your video right now. Maybe you can check that real quick, and I'll go ahead and get to the next question. Okay, so here is a wonderful question that just came on that I think is very relevant. How can we defend the therapeutic use of ayahuasca without using it or treating it as a commodity?
Yeah, this is also an important question. There's a friend of us, she's called Ana Flecha, and she wrote a very, very important article, very provocative article, and she was comparing Santo Daime to rave music culture, to criticize the psychedelic renaissance, the psychedelic science, and the psychedelic therapeutic use of ayahuasca, because she was saying that there are some things that are missing when we just change this whole environment. So we take ayahuasca from the forest and give ayahuasca to people to heal their problems. But all the ayahuasca traditions have a very focused ritual towards the body. So the dance, the songs, to sing, to dance, to move is very important for healing as well. So I think that there are some boundaries that are difficult to cross. But at the same time, I want to quote Karl Marx, which in Capital, when he was defining the movement of the capital. The movement of the capital is have money, then we use something to earn more money. This is a different movement from the traditional way to exchange things. So this is something to stress. Who are these people who are offering ayahuasca? How they are offering ayahuasca? How is their relationship with traditional people? Where come from their ayahuasca? They are buying from producers that are offering in the market. They have a strong relationship with shamans from Amazon communities. So I think there are ways to do this, but there are ways to do this wrongly as well.
Okay. So you had mentioned at some point that there were particular challenges that were posed or have been posed by the pandemic. So the question is, how has Santo Daime been affected by this global pandemic?
That's a
If you
great
can talk a little
question.
bit or elaborate on that point.
Okay, thank you very much for this question. It's very important one. Yeah, actually, Santo Daime spiritual works are not going on, at least here in Brazil, because in Brazil we are living in an apocalyptic times. So we have and nothing, because otherwise I would cry, because there are almost 400,000 people dead by COVID, and there are no vaccines for everyone here right now. So the churches of Santo Daime are not carrying on their ceremonies right now. So Santo Daime is a very informal institution. There's no way to, it's not really institutionalized, like, for example, the Catholic Church. And so the exchange are very dependent on the personal relationships. So if you go to a ceremony of Santo Daime, you can make a donation. But if there is no ceremonies at all, this is a very important problem. And most of the Brazilian Santo Daime churches are not open right now. So there are many conflicts in this scenario, but the people are very creative, and people there, the faith of people is something really amazing, because some people are just drinking water at their places and singing. Some people are drinking a small quantity of ayahuasca at their places. And but this is very important. This is very interesting, because Santo Daime is called by them, by their adherents, as the religion of the forest. This is interesting because at the same time, yeah, now it's really the religion of the forest, because the only communities that are safe to carry their ceremonies are the communities of the forest. But at the same time, these communities are huge. Céu do Mapiá, the Santo Daime headquarters, Céu do Mapiá has almost 1,000 people. These people are living in one of the most complicated territories of Brazil. The politicians of that region are really, really corrupted. and it's really poor, and so they need some support, they need some assistance, they need some help, so they can make the community safe, health, because they need doctors, they need some medicines from Western society as well, and they are now changing their system, so they are broadcasting and they are streaming their ceremonies from the heart of the forest to the whole world. So now we have many and many YouTube channels, Facebook page, SoundCloud accounts, and so on, Instagram accounts that are streaming Santo Daime content. And they are used to ask people to donate. They are used to ask people to make contributions if they can, if they want. And yeah, so they're facing this challenge. There is a very interesting thing, because the elders of Santo Daime decided to stop the ceremonies outside the forest. This is very important, because Brazil is facing this scenario where people do not believe in vaccines, do not believe in the pandemics. This is crazy. But but at the same time, just to finish, because this is a very wide question, and the answer is really wide as well. There is this feeling of a global community, and I've never seen something like this in Santo Daime before, because Santo Daime, as I said, is very fragmented. So there are many churches that do not know the existence of the others. And now with these videos and these streaming sessions and this broadcasting, people are knowing each other. So people from the Amazon rainforest are becoming friends with people from the Netherlands, and people from Japan are learning Portuguese, watching people from Céu do Mapiá in Acre saying songs in Portuguese. This is very interesting.
Okay. Well, I think we have time for one or two more questions. We've got a lot of really good questions. So I would like to ask this next one. Many Santo Daime churches struggle with creating a safe space for queer and gender non-conforming participants. How can we go about deconstructing heteronormative standards within the church?
Yeah, this is a very important issue, actually. Well, I may be wrong, but I'm feeling very optimistic about this. And I think this is also related to this new context of social networks and new relationships between people from the forest and people from the cities, Western people and people of Brazil and so on. Because yeah, there are many problems around this. There are some cases of sexual abuse inside some Santo Daime churches, and this definitely must be denounced. Must be. We need to talk about this. We must not protect these abusers. That's for sure. But I think at the same time that people are more conscious about it. So in the last few months, only in Brazil, I've seen many initiatives in to try to deconstruct these standards. So in the last few weeks, we have this Movaya movement, which is a movement of Brazilian women who drinks ayahuasca, and most of them are from Santo Daime traditions. And they just made this incredible summit totally focused in this debate. This was something really wonderful. And at the same time, the Santo Daime religion now have this work group or group of work made only or that it's only women who can take part on this group to talk about gender issues, to talk about heteronormative standards. And I think this is very little. I know this is little, and there are many terrible things happening in the ayahuasca field in Brazil. For example, União do Vegetal still does not allow women to become master. This is terrible, because we were talking to Putani yesterday, and even Yawanawa tradition, very ancient, now there are women in Yawanawa tradition that are shamans, and União do Vegetal does not allow women to carry on the ceremonies by themselves. So there are many things to be done. This is very little, but this is something. And I think a frontier is not defined by where something ends, but by where something begins. And I think this scenario began to be deconstructed.
All right. Well, Glauber, thank you very much for your presentation today and for answering some of these questions. There's several more great questions here, but we are kind of at the end of the time here. For the sake of people that are watching and listening, how can people find out more about you and more about your research?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. Yeah, you can find me on the social networks. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram as well. But I'm also inside Chacruna. So I'm the associate director of Chacruna Latinoamérica. So if you go to CLA website, Chacruna Latinoamérica website, you can read my articles, and we can talk a little bit more. I've written an article talking about the history of Mestre Irineu, the founder of Santo Daime. Mestre Irineu was a black man, grandson of enslaved people, and he received as a gift the Santo Daime religion, according to the Santo Daime mythology, from a woman. This is really important. This is the true history of Santo Daime. The rest of the history, we challenge, we must fight against it, and we must recover this beautiful story. And I want to say that I'm sorry, because I'm still learning English. So I know my English is not perfect, but I'm really, really, really honored to be here to talk to you. And I'm available after the session if you want to talk more. Thank you, Kevin. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Glauber. Hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.